Hello coaches, David Miller here, Miller Shooting Sports, coming to you out of my office here in Kansas City, and I want to talk to you today about gun fit. This is going to be a multi-part video. It is kind of off the cuff, not highly edited, so don't expect, movie quality stuff here. This is just the meat and potatoes of gun fit and the measurements of gun stocks and what they mean to us. So I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to talk to you about cast. Cast is probably the single most important part of whether or not the pupil or the rear sight lines up with the center of the barrel, okay? If it is not enough cast or too much cast, your rear sight, the pupil, is offline. Okay, that's much worse than having an eye that's too high or too low over the barrel. If it's centered, if you're left or right, you're going to be shooting one side or the other, okay? A lot of times, if a gun doesn't have enough cast for an individual that's right-handed, shooting off the right shoulder, what they'll end up doing is shooting left of a target, okay? The opposite for a cast-on person, left-handed, with a gun that doesn't have enough cast, they're going to shoot left of the target, okay? So that's because when they mount the gun, their face is touching the side of the stock, but the barrel's here, and the barrel's angling. However, the line of sight is perfectly straight. Therefore, a right-handed shooter would tend to shoot more left of a target, and a left-handed person would tend to shoot more right of a target, okay? So we're going to talk about cast and what it means, and how to look for it, because some guns don't even have cast. Any good one will. A lot of the polymer guns that are out there, they don't even have cast. It's just a straight stock, plastic mold. You just don't get it. Right, I got a couple of examples here. This is one of the target guns I made for myself, and this is one I made for my girlfriend Kelly. She's left-handed, so you get to see the differences. But cast is the amount. Let's make sure we understand what cast is. Cast is the amount the stock moves away from the center, empty gun, away from the center of the barrels. Everything that's important about a shotgun starts with the rib line in the center of the bore, okay? If you can see, hopefully you can depict this. Here's the rib, I got blue tape on top of it, but you'll see the cast center of the comb, which shows that cast, how it's offset, okay? This is a left-handed gun, cast on, so her comb is way over to my right, and you can see where this doesn't line up with that. Try to do this, good perspective, okay? That's cast on. Here is cast off, empty gun. This is my gun. See the cast there? Right? So having cast allows you to have the ability to get your cheek against the gun and get your eye lined up. Our eyes aren't on the outside of our head, they're on the inside. So you have to have some room for your cheekbone and your cheek and everything. And some people require a lot more cast than others. Typically women need a whole lot more cast than men, usually. Anyone with high cheekbones can require a ton of cast. That's cast. Now, it's important to identify that, number one. Otherwise, your student athlete is not going to shoot where they think they're looking. They're going to shoot left or right, okay? They're going to shoot left or right. That's part one of this video series. We're going to stop here. I'm going to go to part two. This is going to be six parts, basically. All right, coaches, here's part two. This is all about drop, okay? Drop, we talked about cast in part one. Part two is about drop, all right? All of this, these first two segments, have everything to do with the rear side of the shotgun, which is your eyeball, your pupil. If these things aren't lined up right, it's hard to be successful when it comes to shooting clay targets. It really is. You can get away with a lot of ill-fit gun scenarios when it's you're hunting birds, big old mallards coming into a duck blind. Yeah, the gun doesn't have to fit that great. Clay targets at 40 yards needs to fit pretty good if you want to be successful on those targets, okay? So, as you can see, I got my gun set up. This is a gun measuring tool. I got it laid up here. And I want to show you, I have the graduation marks to this rule Actually, they're on both sides, but I've got millimeters on my side. So I want you to see, this is drop. I'm gonna kind of get down here. This is drop at nose cone and what we call Monte Carlo or center comb. On the board here, I just wrote drop at comb, nose cone, comb, Monte Carlo, all right? One thing I want to point out here, in this particular gun, if you look real hard, you can see that this gap is actually wider here than it is here. Well, that's on purpose, all right? From the back side, I'm measuring 38 millimeters, okay? When I slide forward, I'm right at 40 mil. So it's 2 millimeters lower in the front than it is the rear. Now keep in mind, these are custom built guns that I have made. This one's made for Kelly. And so it has the dimensions as good as I can make them. But the reason for that less drop here, just 2 millimeters across the front to back is hardly anything. But as recoil happens, parallel comb guns don't recoil into your face anyway. In fact, this one would leave her cheek just a little bit as the gun recoils back. So it's a little bit smidgen lower in the front. As it comes back, it's more comfortable that way. We don't want to feel recoil in our cheek, okay? So a parallel comb and target guns is ideal. Most guns that you're going to see, however, are tapered. They don't even have a Monte Carlo stock. They don't have a parallel comb. They're a tapered stock. In fact, I'm going to grab something real quick. Should have been more prepared, sorry, but here's a chart that shows just a standard field gun. And you see that the drop at the nose cone on most guns is about 1.5 inches to about 2 1/4 to 2 1/8 at the heel, angled. Well, if you look at that, it's like a wedge. The recoil pushes the gun back against the person. So if their head's somewhere in here, recoil is now wedging into the cheek, okay? So we're trying to mitigate that as best as possible. I've stacked up material back here if this area is too low for the student, to try to make it sort of parallel by stacking stuff up and taping it, as long as I got enough drop to begin with, all right? So you gotta get creative, because field guns are made for the average guy, the average Joe, the average lady. If you put your head here, you get one picture. You put your head here, you get a little different picture. And the farther up your head goes, the higher your eye becomes, and the lower it goes down the stock, the lower the eye becomes, right? Because it's an angle. Monte Carlo guns will typically always have adjustable combs, hardware built into them, and be parallel. So best part about that is recoil is not felt in the face, and you can get it adjusted to where it fits you just right. In addition to that, in the game of sporting clays, which is my favorite thing to shoot, if I'm shooting down this way or if I'm shooting up real high, it doesn't make any difference where my cheek lands on the stock, front or back just a little bit, I get nearly the same sight picture, okay? So it's the same view. That is drop. So think about, we talked about cast before, which is the windage of your eye, left and right. Now we're talking about drop of the cone, which is elevation. So all those things being as precise as possible will allow our pupil to line up right behind the barrel and give the shooter the point of impact that they are looking at. It's going to give them the best point of impact based on what they see. So that is drop at nose cone, comb, Monte Carlo. Now on to part 3. Okay, video number 3, we're going to talk about drop at the heel and toe. Video 1 was about cast, that's windage of your eye behind the barrel. Video 2 was drop, that's elevation. It's all based on the comb height, all right? Now we're going to talk about how it feels, right? This is where we start getting into managing recoil, getting a connection to the gun, mounting it the same way twice in a row. And that is how the buttstock makes contact with the body, right? On field stocks, they won't have this Monte Carlo. They won't have a lot of drop. This gun here has about 2.5 inches of drop at the heel and about 8 inches at the toe. Kind of industry standard for field guns would be 2 1/4, 2 1/8, down to about 7.5 or so, right? How many of you seen little Johnny or little Susie show up with a gun that doesn't fit them, and this much of the butt pad is sticking up over the top of their shoulder. I've seen it a dozen times if I've seen it once. What's wrong with that is when little Johnny or Susie fires that gun, 100% of the recoil is delivered on about that much of the stock. They're not going to want to do it too much, and then pretty soon they're going to get a bruise here. It's not going to be very comfortable. The fun's going to go away quick. So what we're trying to do is mitigate that. They make all kinds of mechanical butt plates that you can screw on, have them ground fit to the gun, and push that stock down or up or whatever you need to do to get as much surface area on the body as possible. That's how we manage recoil, okay? It's going to be a whole lot more fun. They're going to want to shoot more targets and be better at it if it doesn't hurt. It's got to feel good. So that is drop it heel and toe. Okay, video number 4. We're going to talk about pitch. This one's one that not a lot of people know about, but it is a big deal, okay? And it's really easy to see, especially if you have a jig like this set up. Pitch is measured in degrees, less 90. In other words, if you look at my tool here that's on this gun, it comes down and I have a rule clamped to it. You could use this piece too, but I like the full length of this. This right here is a 90-degree turn, right? But you see the heel's making contact or almost making contact to this rule, but it's not down here, right? Okay, that is pitch. This is a 90-degree turn, 90 degrees, okay? This is less than 90, 8 degrees in this particular gun. Most guns are about 4 degrees of pitch. Some of the older guns have 0 pitch. It's a straight 90, older guns, like 60s and older. Those guns a lot of times don't have pitch at all. The downside to that is when you fire them, they really want to slide down your shoulder. This, having good amount of pitch, if you think about it, we're not all just flat right here. I'm certainly not. So when my gun lands here, in fact, I'll just mount my gun for you. This one's got about 6 degrees, okay? You're gonna see how the gun lands flat against my body, maybe even just a little bit high here at the top. The worst thing is for it to be toe in. If it doesn't have enough pitch, it's toe in, and that's when people start getting bruises. It's not fun. All right, so here's my gun. All right, I'm gonna get my arm away. You see it just lays straight against my body, pushing out, back in. All right, so 100% of the recoil is delivered evenly throughout the whole surface area of that big kickies pad. So that's the goal. That's pitch. It's pretty easily altered if they're putting a pad on or adding a mechanical pad. These are all things that I guess are fairly inexpensive to change or add. Where you start getting money is adding adjustable combs to guns. Some guns won't even allow it because there's not enough material in the stock to allow that to happen, but almost any gun you could change the pitch to it and change the butt pad. So that's pitch. Okay, we're on to video, what is it, number 5? Number 5, we did cast, we did drop at the nose cone, Monte Carlo, drop at the heel and toe, pitch in degrees, and now we're on to length of pull, okay? Length of pull is the topic we all talk about. It's the easiest thing to see, okay? Length of pull is measured from the trigger to the center of the butt pad. You can measure that with a tape measure, this giant caliper, which is a gun tool, and I can put it right on there and come right up to the bottom of the center of the pad, and I'm 13 3/4 inch LOP, right? The length of the gun and the stock is important. But I will tell you, if you get this right and this right, you could be off plus or minus an inch either way and probably still shoot the gun really good, okay? It's important though to have it to where the gun is not too long and not too short. The goal is to have the ability to mount the gun into the line of a target without dragging on your body, without having extra effort added to it. It just needs to happen. Just straight in and up, okay? A shotgun was intended to be mounted into a target line. A bird flushing out of the grass, the bird goes this way, I adjust my body and mount the gun. okay? A clay target coming out of a machine on a fit test parkour. I'm standing like this, I'm looking at the target. As it develops, I mount into the line of the target. If your length of pull's not so good, that's going to be difficult to do, right? I don't know where this came from. Maybe if the person watching this video invented this, I'm sorry, but this doesn't mean anything. I see a lot of people take the gun and put it in their elbow here, and then if they can grip the gun and their trigger finger can reach the trigger, well, that's just right. Well, this is a 13 3/4 inch gun, and it is left-handed, but watch me mount this gun. It's way too short for me. Just watch this. My nose and my thumb are touching, okay? It doesn't have anything to do, here it is again. My nose and my thumb are touching. I have to have a gun that has a much longer length of pull. It just depends on who you are and how you're made, how you stand. I kind of blade my body a little bit. If you're a real square shooter, you won't need as much length. It's a comfort thing, that's all. But the doing this doesn't really do much for you. You really need to know that there's room between your grip around the gun and your glasses and your nose. You're comfortable, and you can mount the gun with some consistency. That's what length of pull is all about. That's what it's all about. There's a general rule. We have a couple fingers width between your nose and your grip. Sure, you don't really need that much. But if you're plus or minus a finger in there somewhere, you're probably pretty close. As long as you can mount the gun and these two things line up, you're golden. Once again, if this is right and this is right, cast off is right, cast on is right, drop it to cone, nose cone to Monte Carlo is right, the stock could be this much too long and you can still shoot it good. Because your pupil's down the center of the barrel. You're shooting where you're looking. That's key. That's key. Length of pull is all about comfort and having the ability to mount the gun. That's the most important part. Okay, number 6, grip length and grip circumference, all right? These things are, once again, really comfort related. You'd be surprised though how well a good grip will help manage recoil, especially with a palm swell that comes in deep into the palm here, because it pushes a little bit of that recoil into the hand, into the arm, not all on the shoulder. But a quick recap: cast on off, that gets the eye center of the gun barrel, right? That's hitting stuff right there, people. That's accuracy. Drop at the nose cone, Monte Carlo. This is the elevation of the pupil, okay? We're too low, can't see over the receiver. We're too high, we want to mount and shoot over everything because our line of sight is perfectly straight, but we got a barrel doing this under our eye, we're going to shoot high. That's still better, though, than being too low. If you can't see over the gun, you need to build up on it. It's an easy fix. Or have an adjustable comb cut in the gun and raise it up. Easily solved. Drop it heel and toe, butt pad contact to the body. This helps mitigate recoil, really reduces felt recoil. It's also a comfort thing, feels good. Doesn't wear you out if the gun's not beating on you so much, so that helps. Degrees of pitch also helps manage recoil, tremendous amount. Once again, we want to make sure we have 100% contact here and here. If the pitch is wrong, you're going to have usually a hot spot at the bottom, down here. If the pitch is right, it's 100% contact and the whole butt pad is making contact with the body. That's really good. Length of pull is about comfort. The gun can be mounted into the target line with consistency, and that's the most important part of that, right? Now we talk about grip length and grip circumference, all right? We're kind of jumping off into the weeds here on gun fit, but it is a big thing. If you look on this gun, this pronounced palm swell fits into my hand pretty good. This gun's made for me. Also on target models, you're going to notice that what I call is a real parallel grip. Okay, this grip is parallel to the trigger surface. So it allows our hands to be pretty straight. You'll see me come into this, my hand's pretty straight. Okay. If it didn't have this parallel grip and it was a field stock, it would be more tapered. And that tends to turn the wrist down like this, and then therefore it's not quite as comfortable as quite as consistent of a mount or a grip there. So parallel grips typically found in target guns. Grip length is measured from here to the trigger, and it's all based on your hand size. Circumference, same thing. How big is my fingers? The span of my hand. I can reach right around there. Make contact. I have full control of the gun there. Once again, it's a comfort thing, but you'd be surprised how much recoil can be generated down through the palm swell and into the hand, which pulls some of it off the shoulder. So it makes a big difference. All that stacks up into a well-fit gun. Now, does a perfectly fit gun mean you're going to shoot it well? It's certainly a good start. But once again, you still got to put the time and energy into it. You got to point your mind at the game right, and you got to spend quality time training and practicing and measuring yourself against your previous performance. Those things is what makes a difference in getting better. But if your tool certainly fits you, that's a great step. So hopefully this video helps you out. This is kind of meat and potatoes of gun fit. I know I was throwing a lot at you in these videos, and it's just glazing over it really, but it kind of gives you a feeling of what you're looking at. That's the meat of it right there. If you got questions, check out my website, millershootingsports.com. You can also email me there for questions, but I'm here for you, so let me know what I can do for you.